Hi, everyone. So I am really excited to. I have a bunch of notes here on the side. So if you see me looking over, I'm just glancing at my notes here. Really excited to offer this today, and I believe that we all end up exactly where we're meant to be. So if you are here, I just want you to open your heart and minds to the messages that could come through, what could land maybe a little bit differently for you today. I believe that it's with reason that you're here. So, what I do want to say to you is that I am not your guru. So, suck out the juice and spit out the pits. Take what resonates and leave the rest behind. I always invite people to tap into their own energy and to explore what they are taking in through their own lens and make sure that it is resonant for them to move forward into their life. So, that being said, I am really a lot about energy. So I'm talking a lot about energy today. So when I sign up to do teaching different events and things like that, I really like my energy to speak for itself. I don't like to submit bios, but what I will tell you is that I have a corporate background in strategic leadership, and I have had my own business now since March of 2019. I am an intuitive purpose guide, and I really thrive in helping people understand who they are, why they're here, and helping them to have the courage to unapologetically stand in who the fuck they are. I hope I can swear in this, Michelle. All right. So, that being said, let's get started. So, the first thing I want to talk about is alignment and managing our own energy and nervous system regulation. So, the way that I like to describe this is, let me back up for a second. So, the reason that when Michelle and I first started talking about this workshop, we talked about energetics and alignment and how we can bring this and interweave this into the strategies and the very tactical things that we have to do as entrepreneurs. And I wanted to bring in an energetic component. And so that's what this workshop is really all about, is exploring some of the things that you might not be tuned into, you might be aware of, but you're not paying a lot of attention to. But the energy is everything. And we can apply all of the strategies and systems that we want, but from a sustainability perspective, it may not always work out. We may see short-term benefits, but we may end up in a burnout state and or desiring something else and being frustrated that we're not motivated to be doing the same things over and over again. So that's what I really want to get into today. So the first thing is alignment, managing our own energy and nervous system regulation. So the way that I like to describe this to my clients is that we have this energetic capsule. And this energetic capsule is a certain size, and we have been filling it with energies that we've attached to, right, through moments in our life, things that have imprinted us in childhood, past lives, whatever you believe in. But these energies and connections that have started to fill our capsule. When we fill our capsule so much that it is filled with everyone else's energies and these exchanges that we're in, we start to lose this sense of who we are. We start to lose this connection to our own energy and being able to discern easily what is mine and what is someone else's. So what we want to start doing is noticing what attachments we have, right? So where am I hooked into energies, right? Whether that's work, whether that's our family, whether that's a partner, whether that's a belief system, a structure like religion, politics, like whatever that is, that we are hooked into, that we have come into an agreement, right? Because nothing can take our energy from us unless we agree to it. It's a mutual exchange. So what have we come into an agreement with? And what do we want to keep in that agreement? The ideal is that we're releasing everything in our energetic capsule so that we have full access to our own energy. So another thing that can kind of fill this space is like stress and emotion. When our body is in this sort of inflamed state and this reactive state and this fight or flight state, it doesn't allow us to, again, access our own wisdom, our own internal wisdom, because it's clouded by all this noise. So when people come to me for readings, what's really cool about it is because it's a soul to soul reading, I have cleared my channel enough. That's what people are coming to access, my clear channel. And so when I say something and reflect something back to someone, it resonates in their body, right? There's that knowing that comes through and they're like, yes, and they can feel it resonant in their body. That is because they often have all of this noise and cloudedness that's in the way of them being able to see that themselves. So that's just an example of how, you may have had a reading before or had somebody say something to you that's just really resonant, even just a teacher or a speaker. When we are fixated on our own lens and tunnel that we're seeing through, it's hard to see outside of that sometimes. So the first thing we want to bring awareness to in our alignment is, how are we managing our own energy and regulating our nervous system? So this leads into the energy behind what we create. So as an entrepreneur, how are you showing up in the world? How are you, what are you creating? Are you creating things because you believe you have to, because you should, because this is your role, because you have a good idea about something? I don't know about you, but I have tons of ideas. I can't see your faces on here, but who here has ideas about everything all the time? I have a million business ideas. And if I extended my energy to implement all of them, I wouldn't have any space to be in alignment with my own purpose and mission and why I'm here. So are you just implementing good ideas that come up, right? That squirrel, like, oh, this is the next exciting thing I'm going to focus on. And then also market needs. So are you seeing a need in the market and maybe creating a business idea around that? These are all ways that if we are creating, like, just the next idea that we have, what we believe we have to do, should be doing, or what the market needs and how we think we can fulfill a gap in the world, a lot of times that energy is going to fizzle out. It's going to, it's just going to burn out, right? And lead into the next idea, right? You're not excited about it. You're not motivated about it anymore. I believe that when we create businesses around our own aligned energy ourselves, this is why it's so important to clear that energetic capsule, right? Who am I tuned into and allowing to influence me and the ideas that I have and how I show up in the world and what I want to create? It's so important to clear that space so that we can show up in a clear vessel, doing what we are actually here to create. And the only way that we know that is through having that clear vessel and connection. And then the energy behind how we create. So this is an invitation to, in finding alignment and experimenting with alignment, is experimenting with what you do in your business, right? So if you know that you're aligned in what you're doing, and this is your purpose-driven mission and why you're here and what you're meant to be doing, then maybe open up to some experimentation. If you're not happy, if you're feeling like what you're doing is not working, or it's feeling stagnant, or it's just not fun anymore, then maybe start to experiment with new ways. Like, what are some new things that I can do? What can I try? What do I really love doing that I can bring into my business and offer? When we start to create from that really playful experience, then it allows, like, the energy behind how we create things shows up into the world. If I never, going back to like the have tos, I will not do anything in my business that I feel I have to, should be doing. I just won't do it at all. So it's really important for me to be attuned to how do these things feel in my business, and do I want to continue playing with that? And if I don't, I used to struggle with integrity, right? Like I said I was going to do something, and if I didn't do it, I would be hard on myself about that and start to feel some grief around that, and like people aren't going to trust me if I don't do what I say I'm going to do. But I have decided now that my integrity is with my own energy. So I always follow my energy. So experiment and follow the energy. Disrupt. So just because everyone else in your industry is doing something a certain way does not mean that you need to be doing it that way, especially if it doesn't feel good to you. There's a lot of noise out on in the world and the interwebs about 5 steps to 5 figures this month, and how to create XYZ, and here's the 10 steps for this. And it's beautiful to tap into systems and structures that have worked for other people. And also, a lot of times, those systems and structures are biased towards what has worked for them, right? So this can create a lot of dissonance in entrepreneurs who are building and growing their businesses if that system doesn't work for them, or if it's just not aligning with them. Right. So being really clear about, does this feel good to me? Does this feel energetic aligned to me? Do I want to actually experiment with this system and see what works for me? For me personally, I like to learn from a lot of different people, and I sort of take all the bits and pieces of all the systems that I've tapped into and create my own world in it. And that's what works for me. So you have to discern what works for you. And don't be afraid to do something that no one else has done. Because when you're really excited about doing something that even if no one else is doing it, it's likely because you are here to bring that through. You are the one that received that transmission. You are the one that received that idea. So maybe you are meant to birth it into the world. And then the last point I have here about alignment is follow the flow. So if something doesn't feel good, then stop doing it. If you're dreading showing up to do a certain thing, maybe you outsource it, right? If it's a necessity in your business, like accounting and bookkeeping, for example, right? So don't just stop doing your accounting, but maybe you outsource it to someone if it doesn't light you up. But as far as like another example that I'll give you is, for me personally, what's working right now in my business is networking and hosting events. Those are the things that are really working for me and bringing clients in. And so those are the leads that I'm following, right? I'm not super stressed about, I need to be putting content on social media right now, right? I do my podcast when it feels good and aligned for me to do my podcast. I show up on YouTube when it feels good and aligned for me to show up on YouTube. It's all about following the flow. And also, one comment I want to make, I have like so much to share, and I know I'm talking really fast. So I'm really excited to be here. Another thing I want to mention about following the flow is with the disruption piece, is if you're like me and you're, like my podcast is called Sacred Rebel, like I like to disrupt things. So be careful of disrupting just for the sake of disrupting too, right? If you are someone who likes that, enjoys change and trying new things and new ways, if something is working, don't just try to disrupt it or maybe create something new because you think I should be doing something different now. Like this is like what I've been doing and I need to change it. I've done a lot of that in the last 4 years of my business. And I've noticed how I slowly end up back into the same like rooted offerings that I end up keeping around in my business. So I believe that even if you disrupt the flow, it's going to come back to you anyways. But I just wanted to say that in case it saves somebody from thinking, oh yeah, I'm kind of just disrupting things right now. Another thing I will mention is we are in Vata season. It's the fall right now. If you're watching us close to when it was recorded, the Vata energy is air energy. So it has this ability to start, just think of like a tornado, right? Like starting to stir up the energy and make you maybe question things a little bit more. I follow my dosha. I'm not going to get into Ayurveda and stuff like that. My dosha is Pitta Kapha for anyone who does know it. And so I travel full time. I'm a full-time nomad since December of 2020. The last couple weeks, the last 3 weeks, 3 to 4 over the last month, I've been from Salt Lake to Wyoming to Indiana to Pennsylvania, and now I'm in Ohio. I've done a lot of travel. So travel stirs up Vata energy. So just because I'm Pitta Kapha doesn't mean I don't have Vata in me. And so when that Vata kicks up, I'm like wanting to burn down my business. So I just want to say that for anyone who also like we're into getting into Vata season, and if that's present for you as well, can you take a moment to ground in to your energy and just remember, like right now I'm doing my Kundalini practice. I started my Kundalini practice again, which I've missed so dearly. And it really helps ground and root me in, and remind me like, oh yeah, I don't need to just burn my business down and start something new. Like I don't need to do that just for the sake of doing it. So the closer we get to understanding who we are in our own energy, the more that we can recognize these external disruptions, right? Whether it be in the planets or the seasons or the people around us or whatever, we can really start to hone in on what is mine and what is not mine. Okay, so that's alignment. The next piece I want to talk about is the journey. So I had a friend of mine talk to me about her 12-month coaching program, and she described it to me as in 3 different cycles: disruption, the void, and expansion. And it really, really resonated with me, and that's what I'm going to use here today. So as we start to explore our own alignment and checking in, which by the way, I would recommend doing, at least a quarterly check-in with your alignment, right? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? How do I want to be showing up? Checking in just even very basically like that, as a ritual basis, quarterly at least, is also going to be really helpful. And just knowing like, okay, I'm good to keep moving. I'm good to stay on this direction. I feel good about the energy that which I'm doing things. Okay. So I navigate this journey, this journey of life. There are these 3 main components: disruption, the void, and expansion. Disruption is what I like to say escaping the matrix, right? So starting to question everything that we're doing, right? In our businesses, the way that we're showing up in life. Is this who I want to be? Is this how I want to be showing up? Is this what I enjoy? Is this what I really want to be doing? When you get invited to things and going to events and things like that, are you just saying yes because you're a people pleaser and want to just take care of everyone and please everyone? Are you staying back in your own world? Sometimes I can get super introspective and need to drop in with that for a moment and see why am I doing this? Is this what's best for me right now? But starting to question everything that seems to be on autopilot, just to understand and know, like, is this me that decided to do this? Or is it some other conditioning that has come in and influenced me to act or show up in this way? Unattached from everything. So I had mentioned in the beginning about the energetic capsule and how we have only so much energy to exchange in the world. And so when we have all these attachments, even if they're old imprints, can we start to unattach? So even if you don't know what they are, can you unattach from them and call back your energy? So something that I like to do at night is I will just ask exactly that. Please unattach from everything, every interaction, everything I thought of, every experience I had across this life and past lives. Please unattach from it all. And then I ask, please call back my energy through the lens of pure consciousness so that I may be whole and show up in the world that in the way that I meant to show up. Right? So that I can call all my energy back to me. Because remember, it's a mutual exchange. The other thing that I want to mention about attachments and our attachments in the world is that if we are attached to relationships, and that includes our business, right? The relationship we're in with our business, when we're attached to things being a certain way, we limit those relationships to the point in time that they were created. Right? So for example, when I first started my business, I was coaching around emotional food, body, sort of freedom work. And if I was still attached to that now, it would be coloring the way that I show up and what I'm doing in the world now. And that's not at all what I'm doing now. So relationships as well. When we attach to, like Michelle and I, when we first met, if I was attached to Michelle from when we first met and not unattaching from her on a regular basis, right? Or unattaching from every time we connected, then I'm holding on to the relationship as it was in that point in time. When we unattach, we allow for relationships to evolve and grow with us. And then we can come back and unite from a growth perspective, from an expanded perspective. We can come back and create a new connection that is more evolved, right? If you're a parent, think about mothers tend to really only need to be attached to their child until about 2 years old. From 2 years on, they're building, the child is now really creating and stepping into their own energetic expression in the world. And so when you are attached to your child, still, like, you're not allowing them to really like reform that relationship connection when they're an adult, for example, right? So how many parents do you know that still treat adult kids as kids, like so it's just something to start keeping in mind, right? So when we unattach in this disruption and in our own like rediscovery of our own selves and our alignment in the world, when we unattach from these things, we allow this new perspective to show up around us and how we want to see and relate to in the world. And so I see the question, what does unattachment look like? Meaning, how do you do it?
Yeah, well, it was just interesting. You say, like with kids, you need to unattach, with relationships, you unattach, but I wonder if that unattachment looks different for everybody, and maybe each person has their own way or thing that they need to do for themselves to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. With energy work, what I would say is that it's all about intention. So it can really be as simple as like if you are in a family situation, right, and you're in a household, and you can ask, please unattach from all of the energies in my household. Like it really can be as simple as that, and call my energy back to me. I say through the lens of pure consciousness, because I want the energy to come back to me cleansed, is why I ask it in that way. But the whole point of unattachment and talking about the capsule and everything is because we're walking around in a very enmeshed society. And so what I want to bring attention and awareness to is, how can you really bring your energy and attune it back to who you are? Right. So these are all little things that we can start to do and to incorporate into our lives to bring back that wholeness and understand, oh, this is who I am. And that's actually not what I want, or that is what I want, and it really creates more clarity for that discernment in the world. So if somebody has a different process that they like to use, I think that that's fine. It's just about intention, having that intention there.
Well, and you must not have the noise, right? Like you must have gotten rid of some of the noise to be able to really authentically do that and see it clearly. Because if maybe, like I'm just saying, like maybe you have, like maybe you're attached for other reasons that you need to clear. Yeah.
So what I would say about that is, so when we unattach from things, like what I would encourage for like this workshop is just have the practice of unattaching. To your point, the reason the attachment is there is a very subconscious reason. So when we can go in and actually, like, the next level of unattaching or cutting cords, if you're familiar with that, is to look at, what is the reason I allowed this attachment in the first place? And when you clear that, the attachment no longer comes back, or it will come back at like maybe a distance, and you will see it more, and there's just more space there for you to see. But the real clearing of it happens in the subconscious space. In the meantime, though, you can still just unattach if you don't, like, if you at least have the awareness that it's there, if you haven't done the subconscious healing work. And what that will do is just sort of create like a body memory of like, oh yeah, we do this, like we start unattaching from things. And at least it will help. It helps to create a little bit more space for you than just being so enmeshed with the energies around. Okay. All right. So another thing I want to say here about disruption is courage. So when we're walking this path, when we're walking this journey, I had a mentor draw for me the bell curve once on a napkin, and I still have the napkin. And she drew all these arrows towards the end of the bell curve, which is where all the outliers are. And she said to me, you are an extreme outlier. This is where you are. And then she drew all these arrows pointing into the bell, which is the norm. And she said, your whole life, you're going to feel pressure to come back to the norm. And I'll never forget her. This was probably, I don't know, 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. I'll never forget her saying that to me. And it's just stuck with me ever since. When we decide to start to question and come back into our own alignment and say, no, I don't want to be a part of that system or that conditioning, the people around us are going to start questioning. There's going to be this disruption feeling, and you're going to feel that pressure to just come back to the way you were, right? Come back to the old you. And so when we get this call to step out in our own, to step out into our own expression and alignment, I believe that not everybody gets it. So I always encourage people to follow that. And most likely, if you have it, you will know that it's not going to leave you alone until you do something with it. So if you're getting those little nudges and kicks inside of you, you can choose to push it aside for a little bit, but at some point it's going to throw quite a bit of a temper tantrum to get out into the world. So I guess I'm sharing all of this because I want to normalize what it's like to go on the journey. And I want you to know that you're not alone in these feelings that you get. The void, I need to kind of speed it up a little bit here. The void is the discomfort, right? This is, I wrote, "Are you uncomfortable yet?" I want a t-shirt that says this. Discomfort is the unknown, right? It's what we don't know. And there's a difference between what is unknown and what is unsafe, right? So if our true survival is being threatened, that is one thing, versus this is something I don't know and I'm unsure about, but I'm off exploring the mystery. And those two energies are quite a bit different, right? So really understanding the difference between the two here. The void is in that mystery, right? I'm navigating the mystery and I don't really know what's going to happen, and I'm uncomfortable and I don't love it. But I also know and trust that to the extent that I navigate this is to the extent that I can feel love and joy and all the things that I truly desire in this world. And then the last piece is expansion. And what I want to comment here, there's so much, like, all of this stuff I'm just barely, touching on. There's so much deeper we could go with all of it. But in the expansion piece, what I want to say is this entrepreneurship can often feel like quite a bit of a roller coaster. And this is something I learned from another teacher as well, is she talked about, instead of having it be a roller coaster, right, where we're up and down and we're normalizing the roller coaster, can we start to normalize this upward spiral? And so when I navigate to a certain level, can I anchor in here? Can I ground in and find safety here instead of like dropping down into that dip again, right? Can I anchor in? And then can I expand again, right? Can I go through the disruption, the void and go up again, right? So just something to be mindful, just a little shift in, instead of thinking like things are really great right now and I'm on a high, and I'm really like in the dark depths of my soul right now, or I'm going through a lot of shifts right now and a pivot and I'm really low right now. Like, instead of normalizing that, can you normalize this sort of upward spiral and then grounding in at receiving and navigating the mysteries of the next level? Okay. And then the last piece I want to say about those three is that it's not a linear path. So it's not that we go from disruption to the void to expansion. We're kind of jumping all over the place, right? And it's circular, right? We're navigating this cycle because it's something that's going to continue to happen, like this upward spiral. There's always going to be disruption. There's always going to be the void, and there's always going to be expansion. It's just how are we regulated to navigate that along the way? So I say that because sometimes I know I can get hard on myself if I have a disruption that kind of peeps its head up again, that I feel like I've dealt with, quote unquote, dealt with, right? And it's coming up again. Well, it's coming up again because there's a new level, right? That upward spiral. There's a new level of it that wants to be seen and healed here. So instead of, again, thinking, I'm going backwards, or I'm going back down, whatever it is, just trying not to think about it from a very linear perspective. Okay. The next and final piece that I want to talk to is about intuition. And so I needed to cover alignment and the journey piece because so much of that is relevant to how we connect to our superconscious energy, to how we connect to intuition. We live in a very mind-driven, mind-focused world. And when we can learn how to see beyond the mind, it we can really start to create anything. Like anything is truly possible for us in that space. And so I shared with you earlier that I was in corporate for 15 years. And I like to share that with people because I like to tell them that I was quite literally paid to think. I have a beautiful strategic mind, and that's what I was paid for in corporate. Now I make and lead my whole life and business through intuition. So I say that to you because I was very, very logic focused. And now I'm very like, anything is possible to me. And corporate Kristin believed anything was possible. I had a mentor say to me once, the sky is the limit for you. And I looked at him and I said, there's a limit. Like I really believed that anything was possible. Now that I'm connected to intuition, corporate Kristin had no idea what was possible. Like it was just, it's just such a vast world that we get to connect into through intuition. And it's really, really, really cool if you're open to it. And I imagine that if you've signed up for this workshop or watching it, that you are. So congrats to you. So layers of consciousness. Very briefly, there are 3 layers of consciousness that I like to talk about. The conscious mind, the conscious is the mind, the ego, identity, safety. And I used to talk about the mind from, like the mind is always trying to hold us back, always fear-based. It's always, focused on what it knows and trying to keep us safe. And I recently listened to a book called Living Untethered by Michael Singer. He wrote The Untethered Soul. So his newest book is called Living Untethered. Fantastic book if you get a chance to read it. He talked about the mind, like as he was expressing this in the book, I like had the download as well, that the mind is also bringing up these old patterns and belief systems for us to heal. So it's not like, I think we tend to think about the mind a lot as, again, very fear driven, holds us back, survival. But I thought that was a really beautiful shift. And I want to offer that here as well, with the conscious mind. So another thing I will say about this is that when I moved out of corporate and became an entrepreneur, I really kind of rejected corporate Kristin for a while. And so that swung me way into my feminine energy. So I was hyper masculine in corporate and I went way into my feminine and I get anything done in my business. And now I've really learned to navigate this balance between the masculine and feminine within me. And also, I lost my point here. Hang on a second. Well, it'll come back if it's meant to.
And well, you were saying that you didn't like, or you didn't, corporate Kristin.
I remember now. I remember now. My point was that it's not, so the rejection of corporate Kristin, it's not that, like I rejected the mind and I went all into intuition. I'm going to be in my flow. I'm going to follow the energy. And what I found and learned after that was that we don't reject the conscious mind, right? Or think, oh, you're fear-based or you're limited, so I'm not going to pay attention to you. What we do is we start to shift how we utilize that space. So now when I get messages in, right? When I get intuitive messages in, that's a very feminine flow. My masculine comes in and interprets the messages through the conscious mind so that I can make sense of the energy and read the energy to people. I can make sense of ethereal things, like things that you wouldn't read about it in a book, or maybe you could at some point, but like I didn't read it. I guess is what I'm saying, to understand how to interpret it. I literally like created space with the conscious mind so that when messages come in, I actually witnessed my conscious mind interpreting the messages. And so when you go on the journey and you become a witness to yourself and your reactions and how you're showing up in the world, I think that will make sense to you. But okay, so that's the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is where our fear and survival and beliefs and patterns live. The things that keep showing up in our life over and over again to heal, those are subconscious beliefs and patterns. And the superconscious mind is limitlessness. It's this beautiful wisdom that we all have access to within us. We all have it. It's not something that you either have or you don't have. We all have it. And so most of the world is navigating life in a very conscious level. And so when you can start to bring awareness to your conscious behaviors, the subconscious reasons of why you're behaving that way, and then integrate your superconscious wisdom, right? You start to live on this multidimensional perspective that a lot of people aren't doing here. Most people are in the conscious, and some of them have some awareness of their subconscious, but they're just batting it away. Like, I don't have time to deal with that. It's a nuisance to me. But truly the magic is when you can integrate all those layers into your life. So the next piece naturally is integration. So how do we start to integrate intuition? How do we start to integrate some of these other layers into our life? Ritual, creating space to access, right? Creating space and making time for us to start to feel our bodies again, right? Meditation is what did this for me. I started meditating just to quiet my mind because I have a very active mind. And I just wanted peace. And now I can, because I have so many years, I've been meditating since 2017 now. Now I can drop in. Like, I can be frantic and running around, and then I can just sit down and breathe, and I'm good. And it's really amazing to create that space. So we have to create space to be able to hear our intuition. And meditation is really just the act of coming back to what we were doing, right? So just coming back to, I want to, like if you're doing the dishes, I'm going to focus on doing the dishes right now. I'm not going to think about what I'm doing next. Just coming back and just letting the mind know you're not here to run the show all the time. Healing. So we have to start releasing all the emotion and noise that we have picked up in the world so that we can hear our intuition. We cannot hear our intuition where we're in an emotional or reactive state. Okay. Instinct is survival based. Intuition is grounded. Ask questions and open your heart. So when you start connecting to your intuition, when I first started connecting and getting messages, I would get a message and then I'm like, I don't know when the next one's going to come in. And I would get really excited when I would hear them. And then I just didn't know how to manage them. Well, you can just ask your intuition, right? Start asking questions and open your heart space to receive. The more you open your heart, the more your intuition is going to grow and evolve. Like when I first started connecting and people would ask me, can I connect to the spirit world? And I said, I don't know. I don't want to be like Whoopi Goldberg and Ghost. And then one of the readings I did, I connected to the spirit world, and it was very natural and like unalarming to me. And now I know how to navigate that world just because I kept an open trust cycle. So when you get messages, it's important for us to follow through with those messages that we receive. You are the only source you need. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching intuition and teaching this work and bringing people back to the truth of who they are through intuition, because it releases all the noise from the external world and allows you to come back to what is true for me. Doesn't matter what anyone else says. I believe in me and I trust me. And it's a practice. So I just want to say that it's a practice that we have to be conscious about. You know, it's not just we connect to the ethereal world and now we're on some other dimension the rest of our life. Like, that's not how it works. I mean, I would like that if it did, because it's pretty fun over there. But, you know, it's something that we are regularly navigating. Like, how do I connect and bring this wisdom back in? Protection. I was gonna teach you guys a protection exercise, but we're running really short on time. I didn't know how long I was gonna go here. So I am going to, Michelle, I gave you that link already. And it's a 6-minute grounding practice that I learned from an 80-year-old mystic on the road. She's in Oklahoma City. And I teach it now on a regular basis. So protection is non-negotiable. So as we start to open our intuitive connection, what I like to say is you're going to have hackers that try to come in. They're going to try to come in and get into your channel because they see you're an open channel. I can be heard here. I can be seen here. You know, so imagine all the houses I've been to and the spirits that have tried to come to me. The old houses I've been to in Louisiana and stuff. The more you open, the more people are going to try to come in and hack your energy. So you want to be very protected. Okay.
Is that the meditation link that you sent me, Kristin? Yeah. Okay.
It's the grounding.
The SoundCloud, yep.
That's different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the YouTube one.
I gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So really quick, my offers, and then we can open for questions. So I actually want to play with something I did a long time ago, and I want to do it just for this community, an intuitive apprenticeship. So if you are in a space where you are learning to hone your intuition and want somebody by your side, I want to offer like a 1 month, 3 calls, unlimited Telegram support, ask me anything kind of space for this group. And I'm going to do that at 555. I have a seasonal mastermind for women. And it is actually kicking off tomorrow, our fall one, but we are keeping the doors open a couple extra weeks this season. What's cool about it is it gives you a space to show up and be supported in a community of women to be in the natural cycles and rhythms that we go through as women, and just show up with intention in the season and be in your expression in a community that is on the journey too. And my offer with that is I want to give you a free, it's a 90-day intention setting ceremony that my friend and I who host the mastermind offered. And so just message me if you sign up for the mastermind and I will gift that to you. 15% off my intuitive readings using code alternative. And all of this Michelle's going to have. And then I have give first sessions. So they are 20-minute coaching sessions that I offer for free. And it's really for us to find some clarity for you on your path. The meditation that Michelle mentioned is my Nirvana meditation. So I want to gift that to all of you, which is about how to make decisions with your intuition. So if you want help tuning into your intuition, this meditation is a beautiful space to do that. And that's my gift to you. And then the protection exercise, Michelle will send. I didn't leave a lot of time for questions, but I'm happy to take them. Ask me anything.
Does anybody have any questions? Because I do.
That was a lot. I was so excited with this, and I probably should have pulled back a little bit, but it is what it is.
I loved it. It's really cool. And it's the type of thing where I think as as I'm getting older, I'm getting more messages, and I didn't really think of it as messages, I guess. Yeah. But I'm letting those guide me. And depending on who I'm sitting next to, like I get messages. But
Yeah.
I always thought it was intuition, I guess, or like what I should say or what advice I should give,
Mhm.
but it's interesting to think of that as messages. I never really put that together.
Mhm. I would, with you, Michelle, I'm feeling like just make sure you're protected. So go do that protection exercise, especially if you're picking up messages from other people.
Mm,
As empaths, we like it's not valuable for us to enmesh with another energy. It's really valuable when we can engage with somebody and just be in our own energy and hold space for that other person, but they're separate in theirs.
okay,
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
That's what I would just
Okay.
immediately, that's just what came up. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, that's really
Any other
neat.
questions? Or is everyone like deer in the headlights?
Well, I feel like we could take so many pieces of what you talked about and make it like a 12-part series.
I know,
You know?
I know,
Like
I know.
it's so interesting, and like you could dive into like so many different things that you just, and there are probably a ton of questions, but yeah, it's just a lot to digest and get you thinking about things and on a lot of different levels too. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And it's neat because you put it in a business at like a framework, but it's really your life in general, I think too. And however you want it, whatever you want to pull from it, from whatever, is important to you at the time. I think it's really interesting how you can apply it to a lot of different things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
This is this is my purpose. Like I am 100% aligned with my purpose now. And I sought that for so long in corporate. And the other thing that I really, I just, I could talk about this all day long. And the other thing about intuition that's really cool is that I am like a forever learner. And so I'll always be listening to podcasts and reading books and taking classes and stuff like that. But what I like about connecting to intuition is that it's like I don't need anything else. I don't need anything else. I invite other things in for perspective, but I'm not going to it because I'm looking at something else as my authority. Like I am my authority now. And that's been really powerful for me and my journey of like really anchoring in with my intuition and my wisdom from that space. It's been very powerful for me to find my own expression in this world.
Mm, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Not everybody gets the call. So I just want to say to like all of you here watching or watching the replay, like not everybody gets that light inside of them that comes online and says, "Hey, I want more." So please, 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 please follow that, whether that's with me or with someone else. I don't care. Follow what lights you up and who you feel connected to, because they're the ones who are meant to be in your life.